Ladies and gentlemen, big hairy news.
Hey, kia ora koutou e te whānau. Welcome back to another edition of Big Hero News. Kia ora. Chewy doing the wave, the chewaver.
Look at what, look, Pat, look what I can do. Look what I can do. Good evening, Pat. Kia ora, everybody.
Hey, man.
All is well.
How are you? Life going well?
I am not too bad. Obviously, daylight savings over the weekend means that Dunedin has descended into the dark times. Dark. I believe it gets dark about 3 o'clock now.
2:30, I thought.
Yeah, so I must become the cocoon.
I've got a little something to share with whānau from the last time I was on Wednesday night. Can I share it now?
It's your show, Pat. You make the rules. Winnie the Pooh's got his little honey container. You get his paw stuck in it.
My honey arrived. I was away at a wedding for the weekend, a family wedding. It was lovely. Up in Auckland all day Friday, all day Saturday, all day Sunday. Came back first thing this morning. I'm a bit of a. If I was you, I'd be saying I'm a tired wee chewy tonight because I had to get up like early to catch a flight back. And yeah, all good. We're back and we had a really good time and it was lots of fun. And it's one of those weekends, chewy, when I didn't have much on. So I looked to entertain myself. So I entertained myself on Twitter a little bit this weekend. And yes, it's very interesting when the person who writes Father Ted and the IT crew, is what it's called, the IT thing?
IT crowd, one of my favorite comedies, by the way.
When they start tweeting back at you. So I've got a little bit of that to share through. I've actually got quite a few little tidbits as well to share through the night. Yeah. It's going to be a fun one. Actually, it's going to be a fun one. So Defence Force gets a massive funding boost. I want to have a chat to you about that, Chewy. I'm interested because it's like we're not patriotic around our military. We're not like, thank you for your service. So it'd be interesting to think through the reason that the government's doing this. Is it that it's needed? I mean, they say that we should be able to defend ourselves. I don't buy that for a second. New Zealand, with the best New Zealand could offer with our defence force, would be annihilated by any big country in a heartbeat. But emergencies, crises, working around the bottom of the South Pacific, helping out. I think we need a much better presence or money going there. Seems great. I'm just interested as to why they made that decision. So I know that's kind of your bag. We'll get into that later.
I'm sure you won't be surprised that I have some thoughts on this, and I fully expect to lose some support in the chat tonight over it. But yeah, I'm looking forward to cracking into that topic.
Yeah, interesting happening at the moment with a little bit of Greens advertising that went out today. I got onto it before the media even picked up on it, and I have been chatting with Tamatha about it as well. If you don't know what we're talking about, stay tuned because I've got a bunch of interesting goss to share with you about that. And just speaking of, Tamatha Paul will be joining us tomorrow night on the show to have a chat about that. And I really want to delve into the advert. The word, I'm being a bit cryptic because I'm kind of keeping my powder a little bit dry for later in the show. But the words, oh, goodbye. Do you know what just happened? The fridge just went on. The fridge just went on behind me and it disappeared. I wonder if that's what the fuse is. The words that they're quoting Tamatha saying, the defund the police, I really want to get into that with Tamatha because I know what it means. Chewy, you know what it means. But I think we both agree that when the Americans started using it to talk about reallocating funds, it was a pretty silly way to say it, because I can also see how enemies of the left can have their believers, have their followers led to believe it means we don't want any police anymore. So we'll talk to Tamatha about that tomorrow night, but have a look at the advert tonight as well. Bit of fun. Nearly forgot. A huge thanks to Daniel, to Amelia, to Count Shadow. Now, it depends if this is a Maori name or not. It's spelled E-R-E-R-E, and I'd say Irere, but it could just be someone using letters that, like if you see the name H-A-K-E, we interviewed that guy, his surname was Hake, but that could be Hake as well. Depends.
Oh, if only you could go back in time, Pat, and just call him that for that entire interview.
And to Bubba and to Rachel, who are all new patrons of this wonderful show. Kiwi Pulse also increased her tier and became a producer of the show. And also, I think I missed one earlier in the month. Hannah Pratt also changed her level of patronage as well. So thank you guys all for being a part of what we're doing. Later on this week, we're actually going to talk a little bit about the show and the next stage of it and things around funding and stuff as well. And we've sort of done this once before, but I feel like as we speak, we're building a website and we're, as you know, opening a merch store. We kind of already have that in that room out there. And there are some things floating around now for us to talk about the way we execute and move into the next stage. Not doing that tonight, but we will do that as we go through. But speaking of the patrons, thank you so much for being a part of what we do. Patreon.com/Big Hairy News. I'm going this week, hopefully, to change all the benefits for being patrons on different patrons levels. And if you are an executive producer, a producer, or what's the other one called? Super producer? Or if you're God.
Super producer.
Yeah. Something like that. Then you are entitled to some stuff that we're going to send you. We're going to change that out, and we're going to make sure everyone that's joined those levels gets their just merch rewards as we go through. And as you can see on the platform at the moment, there's very much early releases of interviews and information and meetups and that kind of stuff. And as we talk about merch, let's just show you what's going on at the moment. This will change in the next couple of months, but at the moment, bighnshop.nz is where to go to get all our merch. It's all up there. It's all revving. As I speak, Mrs. Pat is over in the corner of the studio working on Fuck Around Find Out. And so that will be, as we promised, released at some stage this week, as well as some other stickers and stuff as well. I think that's it for us. Why don't we welcome to the show our guest to bring some sanity to this place of insanity, some logic to this place of logic. Good
luck to him.
Some sense to this place of nonsense. See what I did there? Nonsense.
Hey,
it's only bloody Joe Trinder. Kia ora, Joe.
Kia ora, Pat. Kia ora, Chewy. How are you?
Good, mate. How are you doing?
Good.
Hey, I think it might be fun, actually. We're going to talk about the Treaty Principles Bill and what happened on Friday. Because what kind of happened on Friday is we had announced to us what the submissions were all about. And obviously, we all know the overwhelming number of responses and submissions was like, nah, fuck off, basically. So we'll get to that in a second. But before we start that, can we do can we do the Tamatha story with you now? Because I think it's great, and I'd love to get your perspective on it as well. You cool with that, Joe?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, let's do that, guys. So I was around on that insipid little place called Twitter today, and I saw this. As you can see, I got there 11 minutes after ACT sent it out, because this is a screen grab I took of their video. And they said in their little video that they put out, the ACT, what did they say? Oh, they said, spotted in Wellington today. And the people within the chat for ACT are all like, what are the Greens trying to say? Basically seeing it as a Green Party promotional poster. So, of course, my well-worded response is that ACT Party is so stupid and rabid with their feels. They have put this image out like it's something the Greens would pay for. It's paid for by the Sensible Sentencing Trust as a hit job, and they fell for it. #morons. And what I found out as we went through the afternoon was these things started popping up all over the place. There was one in Wellington. Is it an image? I can make it bigger. Defund the Police. You can see that. And then there was this one, which I think is fucking, what an awesome poster.
Like it goes hard, right? Like, what the Greens, are the Greens mad about this?
No.
This is what I think. This is hilarious.
I can tell you from conversations today, Tamatha thinks it's pretty funny, and it's a banging picture of her as well. She looks great.
Well,
I've got goss about that, and she just basically said free publicity. So yeah, so Tamatha's coming on tomorrow night, and we'll talk about this. There's a couple of things I want to bounce off for you. Sensible Sentencing Trust is like a 15 years since it was last dead movement. So I do have genuine questions about where they got the money for this, because this is not a cheap exercise. I found a press release, and I think it was from 2023. It was a Gmail email address saying that they'd like to restart up the Sensible Sentencing Trust. So to go from a Gmail email address, in 2 years we're putting up pictures or billboards all over the country, I'm like, that is an interesting progression of funds. And I just want to remind you, maybe you never took Sensible Sentencing Trust seriously, but they lost all credibility to most people when they decided to take the side of Bruce Emery, the 50-year-old man who stabbed to death a boy who had graffitied his wall. So the Sensible Sentencing Trust, the people who are ardently there for the victims, in this instance, backed the offender. And then, this happens all the times with these astroturf groups. It all fell apart because, backing the guy who literally stabbed to death the victim, supporting them, that was when they all fell over. Before we kind of get into where to from here with this advertising, Joe, you're our lovely guest. What do you think about the billboards and stuff that have gone around the country?
I don't think that the Sensible Sentencing Trust didn't get the effect they were after in trying to malign Tamatha. And I think what's happened is the billboard's just like super woke and super appealing to people like me that I quite admire the billboard.
Chewy, there was a little bit of buzz going around today about how could the Sensible Sentencing Trust do this? Is it against any electoral rules and stuff? Now, you have all the information on that. I'll let you release your information first, and then I'll drop the hammer if people haven't heard this yet. So is this against the electoral rules?
So I was talking to a friend of mine who runs, was involved with a lobby group, the Better New Zealand group, basically around EVs. They ran a series of advertisements, or tried to, basically pointing a finger at Luxon, and they were told that what they were doing there was breaching the Electoral Act. The Electoral Commission has come out and confirmed that the Green Party had contacted them about these advertisements, but in the Commission's view, the billboards complied with the Electoral Act. Now, what they said here is, in this case, based on the overall content and context of the billboards, our view is that they may be reasonably be regarded as encouraging or persuading voters not to vote for the Green Party. Accordingly, the prior written authorization of the party secretary is not required. So this is the thing. You can't run an ad saying vote for this party. You can run an ad saying don't vote for this party. So I think they've got this wrong, because it very clearly says at the bottom, vote green. But it's a weird sort of point to try and make. They're saying that the words on the billboard don't matter, that the implication matters more. And I think that blows the door off a certain type of attack ad that every party, every lobby group, everybody with a little bit of money to buy a billboard at the moment should 100% exploit.
Okay. So my sources tell me the inside word is, whether it's loud, allowed, not allowed, whatever, is Sensible Sentencing Trust. This is so good. Are being forced to take them down because they don't have rights to the photo. They've stolen the photo.
Oh, you absolute rookies.
And they don't have rights to the photo. So they've They must take it down. And so just so you know, I've just Googled Tamatha's name. This is obviously a Green Party paid for. This is the image. See the white behind and the smile. It's that same image. See the white behind, and that this is owned by the Greens. Obviously, this is a publicity shot that's owned by the Greens. And my understanding is because Sensible Sentencing Trust didn't have the right to the photos, they must remove the billboards, which I just think it's just the icing on top of a beautiful story.
Here's the other aspect, Pat. I mean, you as you said, this would not have been cheap.
No.
So the Sensible Sentencing Trust, their website is just like, they still have the domain, but they're not using it. There's not a website there. No,
it goes to 3 strikes or something like that.
Yeah. It's crazy. So if you had the money, you're like, what's your better bang for buck? Actually get a digital footprint out there or pay for some billboards. It's so obviously an astroturf sort of campaign. That like someone's going to dig into this and we're going to find out who's actually behind it.
I mean, if we're talking about things in the past and we just look straight toward this is not an accusation for legal reasons, but this has the smell of TPU all over it, doesn't it? That's what they do.
Doesn't it?
Yeah. Here we go. Look, and so this is you're talking about the money. This is what I was saying. So this was 2024. This wasn't even a year ago. Sensible Sentencing Trust reactivate to oppose weaker 3. So they've reactivated in June. They have a Gmail email address, and they've gone from that, what's that going to be, 9 months ago, to these billboards all over the country. Something's fishy in the state of Denmark. I think I mixed my metaphors there, but there you go.
There we go. Look at that.
I think they were sst.org.nz. They were .org.nz before.
Oh,
I think it goes
that one. Okay.
You know, I think it goes to the 3 strikes. Anywho, it's all. I actually think it's kind of really working for the Greens. I think it's kind of hilarious. And if we get a chance, I'm already trying. We'll see what happens. Whānau. I think that would be pretty good merch myself. Get a charity on board, do some merch. I'm sure that would be a banger of a seller.
It's remarkable how much, like, they think they're onto a winner with this defund the police sort of thing, but they don't understand what a generational difference this is. That they think they've absolutely smashed it out of the park without taking any of the context that Tamatha brought to that discussion.
Yeah,
it's phenomenal. They just don't get it.
Well, look, tonight's going to be a little bit of a show about own goals, hoisted by one's own petard, because coming up a bit later on, we're going to talk about David Seymour and ACT and how they've own goaled it in the last week or so. It's pretty amazing. Hey, Joe, just before we move away from that, you got any views on that before we get into talking about the Treaty Principles Bill?
Well, I think Tamatha made some really good points in a discussion. It wasn't exactly about defunding the police. It was putting it into kind of alternative versions of law enforcement, like just like community watch groups and stuff, and also like Māori wardens and just kind of organizations that are a bit more community focused and not so intimidating.
Yeah, and that's the mistake with the title. It was a mistake in America because it's not about defunding the police. It's about allocating some of the money that goes to the police for other areas within the service industry that could help. Like if it's a mental health emergency, maybe in America, a person with a gun is not the best person to send along. Maybe someone who is has more experience in mental health issues. So that's actually what it means. I know that's what it means. So do you, Joe. So do you, Troy. It was interesting actually on 2 Sunday nights ago when we did the Leftist Collective. I said that about this conversation, and Kieran McElnulty said, I didn't know that's what it meant. So, you know, I guess we have to go, there are people out there who don't get that, and so maybe I wish the New Zealand version of that they had got a better slogan, because it does open itself up to then just be, well, of course it means that, look at the words, defund means take away, but it's more nuanced than that. I think when you have to use nuance to explain a policy, you're always going to lose a certain percentage of the people. But anyway, all right, let's do this. Joe, I want to talk to you about an article that you wrote a little while ago. When was it? When did you write it, bro? 2023, called "Why the Atlas Network Will Win the Anti-Treaty Referendum." But before we do that, I think it would be interesting for us. This is a story from last Friday. We're not going to play the whole story, but just to give us all a heads up as to what happened with the submission stage of the treaty referendum bill. We heard last week that there was too many submissions for them to go through, and they were going to choose not to go through thing. I think there was enough noise made by Labour in particular, and I guess the Greens Te Pāti Māori, that they did have to go through. I actually think they should have made David Seymour sit there and read them all and give time away from other people. You know, like when you're the naughty kid, you got to write lines out at school. Should have been up to David Seymour to read all of those submissions to try and educate him as to what the way the world is trying to go. But let's just have a look at a little bit of the story from last week, just to give everyone a bit of a heads up, so we know where we're starting from, in case anyone missed it over the weekend as to what happened with the submissions and how many were for and against.
It's been a really tough debate, but that reflects the underlying conditions. New Zealand is divided on this issue.
The division is like 90 to 10, but he's right technically. There is a division there. It's just not very many on his side.
Party's treaty principles bill stirred up a tsunami of opposition.
Oh, no, you're going, boy!
Wave after wave, a constant current of both criticism and
Never get sick of it, eh? Always good. Yeah, always good.
critique, culminating here before the Justice Select Committee.
This bill can only be described as a simple piece of fiction.
The committee is made up of MPs from all parties. Overall, it received more than 300,000.
Which are you guys aware? Is that the most ever? I think it's the most ever, eh? The most ever submissions. Yeah, by a mile, a country mile, eh? Most ever submissions. So over 300,000 submissions.
Written submissions. 90% opposed the bill, while just 8% supported it, and 2% were unstated.
I heard Don Brash on a particular show this morning saying that he said it's obvious that New Zealand wants this change. And I was like, but isn't this really the determining factor?
Mate, he was coping so hard over the weekend. He was just flailing, and like the feel that I saw around that is like, what is this guy talking about?
Yeah, like
I'm not going to pretend that the submission process shows you the temperature of the entire population, but what it does show you is the temperature of the motivated population around this issue.
Yeah. And actually, I mean, it's fair enough to say that there's been polls that have put it the other way. Fine. But as you've just said, motivated, Chewy. So who would be motivated to go out and vote for it? Do you think the people who are writing the submissions are going to be more motivated than the people who have gone like, nah, we won't bother? So, yeah, absolutely. All right, let's maybe another 60 seconds of this and then we'll get into it.
I think it's one of the biggest political backfires in the history of the country.
There's nothing embarrassing about that. That hasn't happened.
David Seymour refusing to accept defeat.
The submissions in a select committee often are not proportional to the overwhelming opinion out there in the New Zealand public.
It's a divisive piece of rubbish, and the sooner we get rid of it, the better.
Te Pāti Māori says some good did come of the debate.
It's raised some good issues, and those issues are there needs to be better education of the general population.
In the end, the committee has agreed no changes to the Treaty Principles Bill should be made, with just one recommendation by majority that this bill not proceed.
There you go. So that was the news from last week, 90 to 8. As I said earlier, ironically, ACT got 8% at the party. So probably, considering no other party was supporting it, probably is a appropriate response. Yeah, Joe, I'm really happy to kind of follow your lead a little bit here, because I was thinking you wrote this piece a couple of years ago, why the Atlas Network would win the anti-treaty referendum, whereas now what we've seen is sort of an overwhelming response of New Zealanders to say, no, Atlas, your money will not win here. I'm not being naive that it's not still going to be a fight. So I'm interested to hear from you, maybe what you were thinking then, what you're thinking now, and having a bit of a chat about that.
Yeah, so this is back in 2023, And this is before there had been any activism, any hikoi. And at that period, we'd seen the biggest, most well-funded political campaign ever in this nation, and it was the Stop Three Waters campaign.
Yeah, right.
Like, if you ever drove anywhere into the countryside, every single farmer in the country had a Stop Three Waters billboard. Just they were plastered all over the countryside.
They're still up down here.
Oh, they're still up here as well in the North Island.
Yeah.
So we just saw this vast, well-funded campaign. It was, to me, it seemed obvious that a lot of the funds came from the Atlas Network, because I went to those farmers' protests, and it was just like a bunch of farmers brought along tractors, but there wasn't the numbers. Like, you'll be getting, not like a hikoi, you'll get 50,000 people. In these farmers' protests, you're getting like maybe 100 people, maybe 200 at the most. So kind of the funding of the campaign didn't seem legitimate by about the amount of people that were kind of involved in it. Yeah. And I also felt that after, in 2023, we'd just seen The Voice Australia, where they managed to defeat the yes vote people. And so the Atlas Network came in with millions of dollars of fossil fuel money, and they absolutely smashed the yes vote people. And you know, it wasn't even a position of power that they were offering the Aboriginal people. It was just an advisory committee that was going to advise the Senate on Indigenous issues. And to get such an overwhelming defeat just for something that was just advisory it just astounds me how much money and influence and power projection that they just brought to that campaign. And in 2023, it looked like to me that they were just going to rinse, repeat that whole process again. And we were going to see this kind of force multiplier in this country of multiple lobby groups just working the situation to get an outcome that was really not helpful.
It makes me think as well about, and this is no offense intended to those activists in Australia and people who are fighting the good fight, is that what was our takeaway then? Is our Indigenous / ally groundwork here in New Zealand too big for Atlas, and in Australia it's not? Because I mean, you got to obviously say from that result, your absolutely valid fears at the time have not come to pass.
Yeah, well, I think that it was from what happened in Australia that we could anticipate what was about to happen here,
right.
And so Aotearoa managed to mobilize its people power against this kind of formidable lobby groups like the Hobson's Pledge that have got vast amounts of money. They were putting up billboards all around the country, and with Te Tiriti o Waitangi, it's kind of a different situation because there's a lot of patriotism around the document.
Yep.
And it's our founding national document, whereas that was kind of a lower situation in Australia where they're just asking for an advisory board. It's not tampering with how our nation was founded.
Yeah. So how do you feel now? Obviously, it's going to come back to the debate chamber this week and be voted down. I'm saying that like it's a guarantee. I mean, it pretty much is. I mean, if Luxon needed any more push to not let anything go through, I think a 90-10 response is a pretty good thing for someone who's a bit weak-willed and doesn't have much of a spine. But what are your thoughts about from here on in? Because I guess there's a thought now, more Atlas money could be driven into turn it into a public referendum and turn it to a citizens initiated referendum. Where to from here?
Well, I think what it's had is actually had the opposite effect of what Hobson's Pledge were trying to achieve. So one of the things that it's done is galvanise Māoridom. A lot more inter-iwi rivalry is a lot less. Māoridom and iwi chairs are all prepared to work together to fight this. Another thing is that it brought out a kind of Māori nationalism across the country. So I was going around the country, and the most common flag across the country, even in Dunedin, up in Brockville, I saw the Tino Rangatiratanga flag everywhere. Like you see it everywhere here in the Waikato. So it brought around a strengthened Māori nationalism like this country's never seen before. And I feel that the anti-treaty kind of movement, I don't feel that it's a real genuine cause, because the majority of the people that take up that cause on Twitter and X, they're all anonymous, and they all have fake profiles. So they're too afraid to show their true identity. And you never see any big hikoi or protests of kind of the anti-treaty movement. Gillian Batchelor managed to get 100 people together one time, but it's nothing. It's nothing that you'll see like a pro-treaty hikoi with 500,000 people.
Yeah, Chewy.
Yeah, I'd love that. Like we're just voicing the majority, and it's like, well, why can we not see the majority all in one place at one time? Like, you if you can't put action to what you're saying, I think that shows how many people support you, right? The hikoi, look, that was a generational moment. Like the seabed and foreshore protests were the closest thing that we had, and they were dwarfed by this
81 Springbok tour.
Yeah, I think this is a sign, and this is what Seymour and his Atlas backers are terrified of here.
And look at that.
They have a generational battle. Now, remember, New Zealand police reckon this is about 25 to 30 people total. So, remember that. Look, I think here in New Zealand, Seymour and Atlas have lost a generational battle, and this is what it was all about. Imagine if they ran the similar sort of campaign 20 years ago, or at the same time as the seabed and foreshore. There was such effective marketing that people just did not have a handle on what it was. Like, it was much more, this is a Māori issue, this has nothing to do with me. So I don't care. This time round, it's not just Māori that are marching. Like, this is clearly an issue that people are like, well, even if they didn't have strong views, that there needs to be more Māori participation, there needs to be more Māori representation. I'm talking about the people that look at Te Pāti Māori and go, I don't get it, it's a bit too much for me. But they still recognise that the treaty is super important to New Zealand as a whole. And they can see Seymour's campaign for what it is, as a deeply unpleasant. And thanks to all of David Seymour's supporters for this, for showing their whole ass online of just being a sentence away from saying something incredibly racist at all times. Like, I think the majority of New Zealanders, even
a sentence away.
Yeah, like if they carry on typing one more time, they're just going to go full on like KKK stuff. There's a lot of really, like, I'm skirting around saying the really racist stuff, and then there's just charging straight into it. David Seymour's supporters doing that like so much. Julian Batchelor, I think people see him for exactly what he is, which is great. He's not a clever man. He doesn't conceal it particularly well. But I think the vast majority of New Zealanders, look, they're not schooled up on treaty issues, literally schooled up, but they understand that this is a slow process. And I think the understanding of the grievances that have been around the treaty, the ways that the agreement has been breached and the amount of work that goes into putting things right, and that it has to be slow and steady wins the race. They prefer that to what they saw with the Hikoi and what they see in the language of David Seymour and Julia Batchelor and all of those guys of going, okay, these guys seem to be a positive movement. These seem to be a group of wreckers that just want to undo a whole lot of stuff that's been done. And I think people are better at putting forward their arguments than they were now. Like I mean it. Like there are things, like we cover politics so much on BHN. There are two things that have really given me a lot of hope in the last 12 months. That's that Hikoi, and that's Hana tearing up the treaty submissions bill in the House. Those things, as a white guy from the bottom of the South Island, they make me go, wow, this is it. Like, this is a moment, and a positive one, because all of my other moments that I have been dreadfully terrible. So these ones I'm going to hang on to. This is good. This is important.
It makes me think, Chewy, the way you're describing it, it's like the Seymour camp, Hobson's Pledge, Atlas, whatever you want. This is the referendum on their position, and it's lost. And it made me think Wisconsin in America. Elon Musk was down there in Wisconsin in America. He was on stage with a piece of cheese on his head, because that's their cheese heads, and he was overtly saying, "This is a referendum on Trump. This is a referendum on Trump." He was saying it from stage and spending millions of dollars to try and buy it, and Republicans got smashed, and the Democrats won. And I don't know, is this a tipping point? Because there seems at the moment that this right faction, maybe coming off the back of their pushback on COVID or whatever it was, have been able to go, everyone hates you, but it feels like maybe people have moved a certain way, and when they've got kind of arrogant enough to go, this is a referendum on our thoughts, people have gone, oh, I don't know about your thoughts, Seymour, this is a referendum on this thing, and it said no. Democrats won over there. Even the advert today that we were talking about, we know how to take the Greens down. It didn't really work. It's like own goal all the way through.
Yeah, I kind of take on board what you're saying there with a lot of Seymour's kind of rhetoric. But one of the things that he did is he attempted to misconstrue treaty rights and Indigenous rights as race-based privilege, and this is a strategy that Batchelor does, that Elliot Ickley does. This is what these kind of anti-Indigenous groups do: is they try to misconstrue Indigenous rights and treaty rights as race-based privilege. And the thing with Te Tiriti o Waitangi is, when it was signed on the 6th of February 1840, 99.9% of the New Zealand population were Māori. Yeah. So if you take it out of context in a timeline, you're going to think that. But if you kind of think of when the treaty was signed, there was only one ethnicity it was signed with. It was an agreement between Her Majesty the Queen and the chiefs and tribes. And so I think a lot of people, they kind of develop amnesia as to when the treaty was signed and the history behind it. And that's how people like Seymour managed to trick people into thinking that it's the Maoris are getting given everything.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I keep on coming back to, right? Is Seymour is just hammering the point every time he got that this is an agreement between races, and that never works. And I just went, it's not between races though. It's between the Crown and Māori, Hapu and Iwi. It has nothing. It's not an agreement between the entirety of Māoridom and all white people.
Yeah, but Chewy, it's easier. I think I'm not to say what you're saying is wrong, but I reckon this is a bit like the how you describe things, making them accurate for people to hold them. If people hear us say it's between the Crown and Māori, they'd go, well, yeah, it's a race. Think about it like this: it's between the Crown and the people who own the land. It's between the Crown and the landowners.
Yep.
Then that just takes any kind of kickback about, oh, but you said Maori, they're race. It's like it's between the people who own that neighborhood and the new money coming into that neighborhood who wanted a bit of that neighborhood. That's what the agreement is.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And then the other thing is just from a just how humans are, right? Is as you said, why would the overwhelming majority just essentially shrug and go, oh yeah, this Queen lady that we've never met, she seems pretty good. Sign on the piece of paper. Just that innate sort of, this is a real colonial white supremacy type thing here of going, oh yeah, Māori just naturally acknowledged the superiority of the British people based on the half dozen of them that were here. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. But they want us to believe that. They want to go, oh, that's absolutely how it went down. Yeah, we're all good. Just doesn't make any sense.
People do get it back to front, like you're talking about, 99-1, whatever the actual number was, but massive majority Māori. People talk about, even when people are trying to defend and kind of be an ally, they'll talk about, it's only really, we're just wanting Māori to be at the table. We want Māori to be at the table in these conversations. What they don't understand is when the treaty was signed, it was the other way around. It was Māori saying to Europeans, you can come to our table. The table belongs to Māori. It's Māori's table. And so I think we also got to be careful not to flip it to think that, it's tokenism or that like we need to allow Māori into the conversation. It's like when the treaty was signed, it was literally the reverse. We'll let you settlers into the conversation. And just because the numbers have changed of population and that's why that's the agreement. That's what it was. And so people are even starting the conversation from literally the opposite of where it was signed. Like, I guess like kind of you were saying, Joe.
Yeah, I think what Chewy's saying is it's so unrealistic that a civilization would hand over all its authority, all its power, its leaders would give away their authority and their laws and all their systems to a little old lady who lived in a castle on the other side of the world. Or it can be as patronizing as well as to think that these people lacked the mental ability to realize that they were just going to hand over their entire society to this little old lady who they'll never ever meet. And it like, who are you kidding when you think that would possibly be a possibility, that you'll hand over millions of acres of land and all your authority? It's just so unrealistic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So we'll wrap up on this. Like, Joe, honest opinion, where to from here? What's going to happen with this Treaty of Principles bills, or at least the ideas behind it? Is it going to die and go away, or is it going to come back in some other form? I mean, Seymour's already making noises about, well, that's what it is for now. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think that it'll go up to the second reading on Thursday, and I have a feeling that the National Party will vote it down, and then that'll mean the majority of the House are opposed to the legislation. It can't get to the third reading. I just don't think that it's had the effect that Seymour's wanted, and that it's just ramped up Māori nationalism, and that's the exact opposite that he was after. I think what he was after was kind of colonizer fragility being appeased.
Mm. Yeah. Chewy, any ideas? Where to from here?
Yeah, look, I think it's a dead duck. I think Seymour always knew it was a dead duck. I'm firmly in the camp that this is just one more step towards him wanting a citizens-initiated referendum, which could go in a very different direction, because anybody that wanders into a voting booth can just put a pen to a tick box and go, yep, cool, whatever. It's not going to be about passion or knowledge or education or anything like that. That's his aim. He wants the tyranny of the majority there. I think that it's also a shield for that other piece of legislation that we've talked about. The name escapes me now.
RSB?
Yeah, which is about cutting the treaty out of a whole bunch of other legislation. That is still progressing. That's not as emotive as this piece of legislation is, and it still has the ability to sneak under the radar.
Yeah, regulatory standards bill.
Yeah, I think National want to put this to bed as soon as possible, so it is out of their runway for the election. I'm not going to let them forget that they were the ones that introduced this, because they're shit at negotiating.
Yep.
And Luxon is bad at this and a terrible leader. So we're going to ride that all the way to election day.
Hey, Joe, it's been so nice having you here. Coming for a play for a little bit.
Kia ora.
And we'll have you back anytime. Stay in
Kia ora,
touch.
thank
Anything
you.
else coming up? Do you want to tell the whānau about anything? Any places to find you or anything that's coming up that they need to know about?
Not aware of anything, sorry. Yeah, kia ora.
Don't be sorry. All right, John. Joe, we will catch you super soon. Love talking to you. We'll talk to you again sometime soon, eh?
Kia ora, bye.
All right, dude. All the best.
Yes,
All right, Chewy, let's get some of these super chats. JC and the Pigeon Catcher says late again. Kiwi Bird says thanks for the free advertising. Sensible Sentencing Trust. Sensible Sentencing Trust. I mean, I'm not going to go on like, oh, Pat tries to elbow this in whenever he can. They were a very big talkback topic when I was doing talkback.
Oh,
I think
100%.
I finished in
Yeah,
2011. And as I said, when that Bruce Emery thing happened, it's like, if any of you guys support this guy anymore, Gab McIver, whatever his name was, it's they've just done it. You know, they've just shown they're actually siding with the offender here. Sorry, it's over for these guys. And I don't know if that's the reason why, but it pretty much was over for them after that point. That was their dying breath. Let's buy a BHM billboard. Oh, if you're listening, Atlas, come fund some of our billboards. Jeremy just says late fee. More submitted to oppose TPB than voted for ACT. Yeah, actually, not my Prime Minister, who's actually nice to have you in the chat tonight because we're going to go to some content from him shortly. That picture is still just so disturbing. The face.
I can't tell if it's an innie or an outie.
Yeah, I don't want to know. I actually kind of want to do this, so I can't actually see it on my
Are
screen.
you looking at Luxon at the end of a flesh tube, or is
Yes.
he the head of a pimple?
No, at the end of the tube, I'm looking at it. How do you see it? Is this one of those? Is this one of those
Yeah.
green lanterns and whatever it is? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it depends on what I have in my mind, whether he's coming at me or he's at the end of a flesh tube.
No, he's at the end of a tunnel. But the point made anyway. Before we, a little bit of vomit in the back of my mouth there. 246,000 voted for ACT, and Seymour couldn't even motivate half his voter base to submit. He even did road shows at cost. Yeah, so what is it? So 8% of 300,000, 1% would be 383. That's 24,000. So that's 24,000. He couldn't even get a tenth. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because 10% of 300 would be 30. They got 8. Yeah. So they only got 24,000 voted against. So that's minuscule. The danger of mouse. I feel that David Seymour watched Red Dwarf and said, yes, Rimmer is who I want to be. Yes, Rimmer is who I want to be. Yeah, when he grows up to be a real boy. Chewy, I'm speaking of not my Prime Minister. We're going to go to a story about that. This is our second, in a second, our second own goal of the day. But first of all, anything else you want to wrap up on that? I mean, we don't need to race past it. We kind of, anything else to chat?
The billboards were amazing, right? So I put the call out earlier this afternoon for people to do more billboards, because this is obviously fine. You can now put whatever you want on a billboard and say vote for me, and it's fine. That's clearly fine, right? The only reason it's coming down is because they didn't pay for the photo. So our very talented, attracted, and creative folk in our Discord, they got busy.
Oh, have they? Oh, brilliant. Whoops. Defund the Police. Someone said in the chat as well, they after the you mentioned there was 250 people at that protest, that maybe we should defund the part of the police that counts numbers. That's what they thought.
So that's a great one. That's obviously an official National Party billboard. That's all good.
Underfunded the police.
This one is also my favorite.
Oh, yes.
This is so good. Whoops, didn't tell the police that my party president was a predatory predator. That is tiny.
That's what she said.
Your secrets are safe with me. Vote ACT.
Yeah.
These are some old ones that I've had hanging around, but still good. We're played by poor people. Only ACT can legalise hunting beneficiaries for sport. Party Vote Act. It's time to skin and flay renters alive. Party Vote Act. Just so very good. So all of that is fine. Satirists and comedians are crowdfunding billboards as we speak because the rules are gone.
It is interesting when they say this is clearly not a vote for the Greens. When as you say, it says
it's
vote
an odd
Greens.
Position, right? Because it literally says vote Greens. Like, I think you have to, especially when you're talking about billboards, you have to say the words matter more than than going, oh yeah, no, we're pretty sure that people will see this as sarcasm, because sarcasm is famously really easy to tell in the written word.
I wonder if you see that photo there that I've got up, it's a lot smaller, I'm sorry, but see, it's lost all the stuff around it. I wonder if this is the original photo, and because of all the background and stuff,
we've edited the image, so it's not the same.
I wonder if that's why they're different. Yeah. Well, I mean, like, hopefully we'll have a chat with Tamatha tomorrow night. We'll ask her that.
That'd be great.
We'll go from there. All right. Okay. Well, let's get on to this. This is another bit of a light-hearted moment, I guess. Chewy, you know about this, but I'm gonna blow it wide open for some people. Nala, you all right there, mate? See, the kids aren't home, so she comes and slums with Dad downstairs. Right. So, Chewy, we all know about Not My Prime Minister and this video that came out over the weekend.
That's so good. This video is so good.
But hang on, we're getting better. I want to give Not My Prime Minister the credit. Everyone should go follow Not My Prime Minister on TikTok. But do you realize? I didn't realize this because I actually contacted. It's such a long name. I actually connected with Not My and said, could I have the original video? And do you know what he told me? See if you can guess.
You can get it from ACT.
You can get it from ACT. It's on the ACT YouTube channel.
They think that David Seymour comes out so good in this video that they're going to put it out and it's going to make him look good. I hate to tell you this, chat. I hate to be the person that bears this bad news to you. Seymour does not come out good in this video. Not one little bit.
That was the most surprising thing to me. So again, look, we give credit. We get credit who got us the thing. It was Not My Prime Minister on TikTok, but we're going to watch it in full 4K. And this, I only found this out just before the show, but look, this is 8.5 minutes long. So we only watched the first 90 seconds. We're not going to watch for 8.5 minutes. I don't know where it goes afterwards, but the best thing about this, so Mahinirangi Forbes is the person who challenges David Seymour. And you wait till she gets to the media scrum and none of the other journalists say a word. You can just see they're sitting there going, this is gold. Good. This is gold. I'll just hold my microphone. This is gold. I don't have a question. You keep going, Mihi. This is gold. Yeah. So let's have a look at this. And that's, I think it sounds like the sound maybe a bit better on this one as well. So Mahinirangi Forbes, a legendary journalist in New Zealand. I wonder if she's doing Mata again this year. That's what was the name of her show last year. And basically she just goes hard in the paint, man, about Atlas Network stuff, about all these sorts of things. And I'll say it again. This is on the ACT Party YouTube channel. ACT think this is a win.
I wish you all the best with your taxpayer-funded crackpot documentary. We've seen your questions, and I think you're a joke. Yeah, sorry.
One thing to remind you of, and we know this from Times Square, I remember Seymour wears a mic with him everywhere. That's why it's so clear. So that's the reason we've got audio. So he's wearing a DJI mic, the same mics we were using at Waitangi, and it's on his lapel. And that's how we've got the audio, because he's been wearing it, they're recording it, actors recording it, and acts put it out. That's why I was confused. I'm like, he's got it's really clear. You can't really hear her, but he's really clear. So this is ACT's sound and ACT's video.
I've seen your questions, and I think you're a joke. Yeah, sorry.
That you were the party of democracy. When in the spirit of democracy, when do I need to get a reader to do my job?
Excuse me. Hi, folks. How you going?
Yeah, got that. Hi, folks. How you going? Everyone, please start talking to me now. We'll have 60 seconds of this is The Simpsons. Stop hitting him. He's already dead. It really is.
Did you tell? Did you say to an candidate that the reaction to your treaty policy would be like civil war?
No, I don't believe I've said
The
that.
work you did in Canada on Indigenous policy, are you using that as a roadmap here for X treaty policies?
I didn't do any work on Indigenous policy.
Do you still share the views of Dr. Tom Flanagan?
Look, I think he's a professor of politics who's written a lot of things. I think some of them are very right.
Which ones?
Well, he's a guy I haven't actually seen for over a decade. So.
The thing that's also important to remember about any decent journalist, but Mihi in particular, she knows the answers to these questions.
Yeah, you don't ask a question that you don't already know the answer to and have the receipts for.
Yep.
It's a bloodbath.
Yep, it's a bloodbath.
Which ones?
Well, he's a guy I haven't actually seen for over a decade.
His Indigenous policy?
Well, again, I'm not familiar with all his policies, so you know.
Well, you quoted him in your book.
Just notice just notice the other journalists. There's no open mouth. There's no one trying to jump. Like in a media scrum, everyone tries to jump in. There ain't no one trying to jump in for the next question right now.
Well, again, I'm not familiar with all his policies, so you know.
Well, you quoted him in your book.
Well, you may well have done, but.
And the ex-school of politics asked for people to read about him.
Well, he's written a book about how to campaign, which is what it was about.
How about Paul Bunner? He claims residential schools in Canada is a bogus.
Well, again, I don't know who that is.
As the editor of C2C Journal, you platformed him and you quoted, thankless task of setting the record straight. So, is the Canadian residential schools a bogus
10 years ago when we published lots of people, and not everybody that edits something actually agrees with everything that people write under their banner.
You agreed with it. You said the thankless task of setting the record straight.
Yeah, well, in that case he was. But
in 2023,
anyway, look, folks, I tell you what, I'm here and happy to take any questions from people.
Anybody want to help me out here?
Anybody? I'm happy to take anyone. What? Hey, the dude walking in the back there, carrying the coffee. Have you got a question for me? Anyone?
If someone wants to pull the fire alarm, that's fine too.
Anybody?
Look, folks, I tell you what, I'm here and happy to take any questions from people who are asking actual questions.
To the Atlas Network,
all right.
And you said no. So
well, the Hack Party does not.
No,
all right, folks. Look, I'm here to take questions. I'm here to take questions from people about serious matters, not crackpot conspiracy documentaries.
What conspiracy am I a crackpot of?
Several. You have a question?
Are you quite excited to see an overhaul of the public service?
And that's about where the video on TikTok cut out. I haven't seen the rest of it, so we'll leave it there for now. But oh my goodness! I think the police might need to be called because an assault has happened, Chewy. There is an assault on the tiles.
It's a murder. I like to think that there's like a really keen young reporter just dying to ask a question to David and wondering why nobody else is jumping in, and this lady is just running him. He goes to answer a question, then one of the more experienced journalists just goes, "No, let me cook."
Just step away from the microphone, young fella.
You've gone
step
to
away from the microphone.
Just look on. He put this up thinking that it makes him look amazing.
Oh my gosh!
Like a commanding leader, well and truly giving it to the left. I saw somebody giving it to somebody else. David Seymour was not the giver; he was the receiver. He was. Oh, that was brutal.
Yeah.
I've seen literal fistfights that were less violent than that video was.
Yeah, he might have had to go for a blood transfusion after that one, bro. Honestly, so much left on the floor.
So I guess this is us talking about. We are going to dissect that video when Mihi releases that documentary. It is like that's what's out there now, promoted by ACT.
You said it again. You said promoted by ACT again.
So that's the ACT ad for Mihi's upcoming expose. Which is going to be brutal. She did not ask those questions because she didn't know.
So I obviously fired a message. I have no connection with Mihinga Forbes, but I fired a question to her, and because I first of all wanted to know where that was from, but that's from 6 days ago because that's on the YouTube channel from 6 days ago. And I've just said we'd love to have you on for a general chat. Even keener to find out more about the so-called crackpot conspiracy documentary. Sounds like a must-watch. We will love a crackpot conspiracy documentary.
I love Mihinga Forbes. She's amazing.
Yeah. There's a few of them, eh? Like, I mean, you think about the people that you'd love to always have on because of what they do. I mean, give credit. Jack Tame is one of those people. Mihi's one of those people. Moana is one of those people. John Campbell's one of those people. There's some people who stand above. Is it above the parapet? Anyway, their heads are a little bit higher than the rest of them, not because they place themselves up there, but by the work they do. There's a saying when you're playing basketball, Chewy, and you throw someone the ball on the outside of the 3-point line, and you just go, do work. And what that means is, I don't want the ball back, you score. Do work. And I watch that and I just think, Mihi, do work.
I'm glad you mentioned Moana with Mihi as well, because I think one of the things that we're so lucky to have the two of them as just excellent interviewers, especially. Yeah. Because they bring, like, if you go on Jack Tame's show on Q&A, you expect to get fucking roasted. As we say again and again, you've got to go on that show correct. I think what Mihi and Moana bring to the table, though, is a gentler sort of interviewing. It's no less insightful or incisive, but I think it has the benefit of perhaps luring someone into a false sense of security. And I mean, especially when we're talking about Moana as well, I don't know if you saw that interview she did with Shane Jones. Was from maybe a month ago.
No, probably not.
She is the only one that I have seen cut through Shane Jones's persona, the mask he puts on, the performance that he does as a politician. She gets some very honest answers out of him. And he almost remembers himself halfway through the interview. It's like, go and hunt that out, chat. It is an excellent look on someone who can be, at times, a baffling politician to nail down.
Another one that I'd put in there based on the documentary work, and that is Paula Penfold as well. And actually, you think about how Mihi was asking those questions, and you're right. There's something in the tone. I can hear Paula. I can hear just those questions back. Look at the one on, what's the name of that Maori conspiracy theorist guy who's a pastor or whatever. Someone will tell me in the chat. And they just, it's like the smiling assassin. I will just go, and you won't even know what's happened, but there'll be blood on the floor. Billy Takaha, is that what it is? Billy Takaha. Yeah. So she's up there as well.
It's got to be the fact that we're talking about 3 women interviewers. They just bring a different style of things, and I think certain people would overlook them for that or underestimate them for that. And I just think that the skill set that they bring and the talents that they bring to this, like, we all benefit from it. But I'm almost watering at the mouth for this documentary now.
Yeah.
It's like when someone's cooking a really good steak in another room and it's just wafting in. You're like,
here's an interesting question from Kaituhi. Kaituhi says, Pat, are other reporters curtailed by their media companies? So who did we list? Moana, Māori Television, public broadcaster, basically. Mihi, RNZ, public broadcaster. Jack, TVNZ, public broadcaster. Paula Penfold is still stuff. Probably the only one that you'd say of that list that we've got that's a commercial thing. So I don't know. Maybe there's something in that it's like when a professor gets tenure. It basically means they're free to do whatever now. Maybe that's the truth. Maybe that's why, sorry to tell you this, conspiracy theorist, public funding of news broadcasting is so bloody important, because then you don't have to worry about the sponsor in case they're in a story about leaking gas into the harbour. Maybe that's actually, we have to have at least public broadcasting.
And this was a good example when media companies are shedding people in their newsrooms and that sort of thing. This is the cooling effect that it has on our journalism, right? Is that, yes, you will have reporters now that are like, if I piss off the wrong person, I'm out of work. Like, there's so many people that are looking for this job. If I fuck up, I'm gone.
Yeah.
And those voices that are there, like I see people mentioning in the chat, Kim Hill. Love Kim Hill's interviews.
RNZ.
Just the dismissiveness, the ability to cut through obvious spin.
Yeah.
Oh, I cackled during her interviews. But yeah, there are people out there doing excellent work. And then there are a lot of people out there doing, like, we have big criticisms of the media for just taking politicians at their word, repeating their press releases without a critical eye on it at all, or just I want these journalists and these organizations to go, well, here's the statement from David Seymour. We've looked into it. It's fucking all bullshit.
Yeah.
And here's column inches telling you why, instead of just repeating it verbatim. And a lot of people would say, oh, it means they've got a left lean or whatever. No, do it to everyone. Like we've said this about Jack Tate. Like, he has been brutal to left or right. He is brutal to anyone that comes before him and does not come correct. Like I think back to that interview he did with Chippy. Chippy did not come out of that smelling of roses. So yeah, come correct. Hold their feet to the fire, whether they're left or right. I want people to be doing the job of politics on their fucking A game, and it should be dangerous for them to lie and mislead the electorate, whether they're left or right, whether they're Greens, Māori, Labour, National, ACT, New Zealand First, the whole lot of them. They should be fearful of journalists.
And the super chats, Kiwi Bird, I think you're a joke, Seymour said softly. He said lots of stuff like that. And that's interesting as well. He thinks that because his rabid supporters will be like, oh, stuck it to the wokesters. Like, if you think that he came out of that looking good, that tells us more about you. Peter says Queen takes Rook on the checkered
Good
tile.
comment. That's a good comment.
What time are we? Oh, look at us. We're all right. We'll do the Defence Force next. Let's have a quick look at something that happened over the weekend, and we talking about this. So let's just put it up. Over the weekend, a bunch of our clips got put out, and the conversations we're having around Benjamin Doyle. And I had a lot of fun on Twitter on the weekend, because it's always interesting to see how people want to tell you what you're saying when you haven't said it. And for the Benjamin Doyle situation, I think what we've said, and I said this to a few people on Twitter over the weekend, is much like a famous conservative Ronald Reagan, what I think I'll do before I cast public aspersions is test and verify. And you put out the evidence that would get someone convicted in court or get them arrested, and I will comment on that, other than this conjecture and rumor. And Chewy, thanks to you, I actually used something that you put up. You know that bus, the picture of the bus with the bus in front of it? I asked someone, is there any other context that the word bussy could be used? No other context. Is there any other context that you could see an adult male kissing their female or male daughters on the lips? No. So of course I showed them the picture of the bus that you showed me, and I showed them the picture of David Beckham. And then of course it all changed. Oh, but they and they and they and they and they and they and they. So one of the most interesting ones was a guy called Graham Lynham, whose tweet you're looking at right now. He is the writer of The IT Crowd with Richard Ayoade. He is also the author of Father Ted. He is the author of a Father Ted musical that never got made because, as he says it, the trans fight ruined his life, ruined his marriage, and made him broke. So he decided to put one of our clips out there where we were talking actually about the Winston Peters attack. Now, I don't need to have a conversation around innocence or guilt. That's for the police and the courts to decide, right? And if that evidence gets presented, then we will address it. As of right now, funnily enough, like many conservatives used to believe, I kind of stand by the Westminster system where someone's innocent until proven guilty. You know, can things look really bad and they still be guilty? Yep. Can things look really bad and there be lots of public opinion? Yeah. But at the moment, for me, we're watching the pile-on. And as I said to a few people over the weekend, they asked me if you were wrong, what then? I said, well, okay, if you're wrong, what you're doing is committing defamation now, right? And if you're right, then present your evidence. And people say, you're defending it. You don't. It's like, no, I'm just challenging you on how this whole thing called the justice system works. So is that a fair summation, what I've just put about kind of what we've been saying, what we've been putting out there, Chewy?
100%.
Okay. So Graham Lynham, who has about 500,000 followers, I think, 578,000 followers. One of our clips out there with Bomber talking about stuff, you know, about how Winston's dropping meat to his base to get him re-elected. Graham Lynham said, you misspelled, quote, there should be an immediate investigation of these serious allegations, end quote.
What a good joke from a comedy writer.
I left that alone.
So good.
I left that alone for quite a long while. And this was really the only person. Normally when someone says something, I go, no, you're probably right. Or good point. It's what I do the whole time. It gets him so infuriated. But what I said to him was this. Funny, because you once said the trans war left you broke and alone, blamed it on ending your marriage. I have to say, now all this time you are spending trying to out a couple of rodeo clowns from the bottom of the world might be a better example of where your riz went. You are a very sad, irrelevant old man now, Graham. As for all the accusations you and your ilk throwing our way, unlike you, I will evoke a conservative position from a day gone by and test and verify, rather than convict based on subjective positions defining the truth from fiction. I've said it before, what evidence is there to put out before a jury? What evidence is there for an arrest? Show it, or better, show it to the police. And then, of course, I had to say, because I knew it would come in, and before anyone says, yes, I'm irrelevant, never claimed otherwise, the big difference is I've always been relevant, unlike Graham. And someone called us ZZ Bottom, which I did say to them, I mean, fair play on the name. Can't deny that. There's, you know, fair.
That's legitimately pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty good. There was a few pretty good. There was a really funny one out there with a couple of Muppets as the Green Party leaders. That was really funny as well. It looked funny. But this is the thing I wanted to say. So this person, Graham, this was the 6th, right? So that's yesterday. Go on his page, right? This is the same post. And now have a look at his feed, right? This was yesterday, remember? Trans athletes taking a knee, trans people.
He's got a lot of time on his hands now.
Look, trans athletes. Last week tonight mentioned twice so far. Remember, this is just yesterday. This is 24 hours. Jesus. Trans person, protest, Fox News, gender critical, trans stuff. Now this one, you know, trans athletes or trans pool players. Is that an athlete? There once. We'll go through and see that as those pool players. Look, another one for the pool players, another one for the pool players.
So is he literally trying to say that a trans woman has an advantage over a woman at playing pool?
But look how many times? What? And look, to be honest, I did this at the start of the show. John Oliver for about the 4th time. I probably, if I hit refresh, another one for those. And apparently that's breaking news, even though he's done it 12 fucking times. Another one for the pool. And I just had the thought, you know, the conservatives always claim the woke mind virus is ruining the world. Do you want to see another example of someone having a mental health spin out than what I've just showed you in the past 24 hours? 578,000 followers.
He's got some competition in the world today, but there's very few brains that I would say out there have a bigger burden of worms than Graham Lynham. Like, and it guts me because legitimately, Father Ted, the IT crowd at Black Books are some of my favorite comedy shows. But my God, the turn that this man had, it completely blew up his entire life on the single issue.
Do you know what I bet it is? I honestly do think. I don't know this, but you know what? It's pretty, well, I can't say it's pretty obvious. It sounds like I know. I'm prepared to place a wager on the fact that his marriage blew up and he's connected that to his transphobia. Let's put the word out there. And then he connected those two things. And I suspect the marriage was probably gone before that, but in his mind now, the trans community have everything to blame for him losing his life. Whereas possibly it was the other way around. And he's now projecting and blaming the world for stuff he's lost. I do probably think he's lost his opportunities within the writing community based on his anti-trans rhetoric. But how could, I mean, if you had no interest in in a conversation around trans people in general, how would you even still sit in the room with that person filled with that much bile and hate and, you know, aggression and disgustingness in general?
Just flailing at the bottom of an echo chamber of his own choosing. Like he's handcrafted that bucket and put himself in it.
Well, and like Arvid says, right, this is the thing. This was a New Zealand story at the bottom of the world. This guy is sitting in the UK and he blew it up on his feed. So he's so into the idea of having to be across everything in the world. This is his march. So he's ruined his life, whether it was before or after his trans comments comes out. But now he's connected the ruining of his life to trans people. And so now he's even more of a fervent transphobe than he was. And it'll probably get worse because it'll continue to ruin his life and make it worse for him. And so then he'll continue to get more and more toxic. It's just, honestly, people talk about that woke mind virus. It's like, if whatever we just saw, and I'm sorry if people didn't want to see it, whatever we saw wasn't some kind of virus, mind virus driving someone to oblivion, I don't know what would need to be. Over this whole Bussy thing the whole weekend, just look at the evidence. Just look what's been put. Okay, let's look what's been put online by Graham Lynham. It's pretty clear you're pretty fucked in the head. You've got a really sad little life, and that perhaps most of the problems in your world were created by you, not the people around you, not strangers on the other side of the world. So that's what the evidence of your feed says, let alone the evidence in someone else's feed, what they might say to you. Anyway.
Just a very, very strange man.
Yeah. And you're right. I mean, some of these people who are, I remember in the comedy world when we went through a whole period of people, rightfully so, being outed for some, especially males, for some revolting things that they'd done in their positions of power. And I can remember sitting back when it kind of happened to Louis C.K. and I was like, oh, but I like him so much. Not him. But obviously it should have been him and it was supposed to be him. But I guess like maybe I've never watched the IT crowd, so I don't know it, but you feel a bit about the IT crowd, Chewie. It's like, anywho. What have we still got to talk about? I feel like there's one story left.
The New Zealand Defence Force funding.
Whoop, whoop. New Zealand Defence funding. Is that right? Whoop, whoop. I was just going to do this super quick because I want to give credit to someone, one of our watchers from Melbourne. We're not going to do this. It's not really, it is a story, but I want to put it out there in case it happens. So Melbourne Kiwi, who may or may not be in the chat right now, but always watches and always emails, sent me an email on Saturday. Said, wait until Tuesday. Oh, that was hashtag stock market crash. That's what they said. And they said, wait until Tuesday. I just wanted to I'm kind of putting it out there publicly to give them credit for things that are happening. Wait until Tuesday to see it. I've been a close follower of international share markets since the 87 crash. And this is following the pattern: increased fear, followed by panic with major drops and fleeing to the US dollar for safety. Then a crash is on. Wait until Tuesday, Melbourne Kiwi said. Wait until Tuesday. That's tomorrow or perhaps the next day American time. Stock markets the world over are crashing. Japan down 11%. America, I watched a really interesting conversation with James O'Brien. I won't play it now, but James said that America, since these tariffs have come in, has lost $2 trillion off their stock exchange.
Yep.
$2 trillion.
Don't look at your KiwiSaver chat.
So just putting it out there. I guess what I'm doing is saying, you know, credit where credit's due. Saturday, this email came to me. Certainly the startings of that is what we're saying. Credit where credit's due, if it happens. All right. So yeah, you're right. It's the Defence Force. Okay, let's have a squiz at this. And have a chat. We just got to go to Simon Dello, who is making his O face, technically. Right. Here we go.
Combat readiness. That's the government's priority as it unveiled its defence capability plan late this afternoon with a multi-billion-dollar funding boost amid global tensions. $12 billion is being committed over the next 4 years, including $9 billion of new spending, taking our defence budget from just over 1% of GDP to more than 2% in the next 8 years. The announcement coming as our latest One News Varian poll shows almost 40% of us are in favour of increasing defence spending. Senior political reporter Benedict Collins has more details.
It's out with the old, these retiring Hercules on a lap of honour in February, and in with the new. The Defence Force set to ramp up its capabilities with a big focus on increasing strike power. They're looking to equip our P-8 Poseidons and frigates with missiles.
Distance certainly
It's
is no
not a
longer
frigate.
any protection for New Zealand. Not when we have an intercontinental ballistic missile launched in the South Pacific. Not when ships with enormous strike power come into our backyard.
They've seen events happen in the last 6 months, for example, that we haven't seen before. And that is illustrative of what we're talking about, which is that we actually are living in a much more contested part of the world.
This military expert says an increase in strike power makes sense.
So we only have a small, finite amount of platforms. And by platforms, I mean the frigates or the P-8s or even in the land domain, some of our artillery systems. But because we have so few, actually we need to take the fight further away for us.
There's also emphasis on boosting uncrewed military equipment like drones and even Navy vessels.
Can I just say, I think it's Judith Collins who's talking here. Sounds like the person who knows absolutely nothing about the military when she's describing drones and that kind of stuff. It's kind of embarrassing, actually.
Uncrewed naval ships, I say ribs basically, which can...
She's never said the word ribs before in her life before this press conference, understanding what they are.
Which can swarm ships, do other things like that.
Drones
that can surveil, uncrewed long-range surveillance.
The infamous 757 Air Force planes, which keep on breaking down, will be replaced.
If we have an international trade mission and we want to take hundreds of people with us, it makes sense to have this capability.
And around $2 billion will go on a fleet of maritime choppers.
Our partners are very happy that we're going in the right way, the right direction.
Showing our weight.
Yeah.
I find it really interesting that politicians seem to frequently find ways that they can spend more money on war, but not find that money to spend on child poverty or on climate change.
Really good point, eh? I think it's really fair. The question is, shouldn't they be doing both? But we'll let Chloe get to the end of it.
And in our latest One News Varian poll, we asked the public if they approved or disapproved of New Zealand increasing its spending on defence. Almost 40% of us are in favour of increasing spending, while almost a quarter of us are not. But a large chunk of New Zealanders felt they didn't know enough to...
It's funny again, the headline is 40% of New Zealanders approve. They didn't say the same number approve that don't know. So in other words, 60% disapprove or don't know is actually another completely valid headline. Strange they didn't take that path, though.
By and large, I'm not really in favour of spending money on defence.
So I say it's indefensible, and I do mean that. Yeah, I think the world should be moving much more towards helping one another instead of like gathering arms to clobber each other.
They're going to increase defence spending, and I think that's a good thing. I don't think we're doing enough to support our defence forces and our troops.
A new look defence force now on the horizon, the government insisting it's in the country's best interest.
There you go. That'll do. We won't have the stand-up afterwards. Chewy, this is your department.
Yes.
The Department of Chewy.
As BHN's official defence correspondent, I think I can take that. Hey, in broad strokes, I approve of this. Okay. The devil is in the detail, however. We have the military spending here has been real feast or famine stuff for decades. There was a big defence white paper done in the 2000s of basically some long-term planning around what the Defence Force needed. There was some big spending, and there were some fucking horrible decisions that came out of the government at the time. One of the ones is LAV armoured vehicles. We had to replace about 100 old APCs and some tanks, and so we bought 400 LAVs and then stuck all of them in a warehouse and used about 16 of them. We never had the crews for them. We spent way too much on them. They didn't meet the requirements of what we bought them for by the time we got them. It was dumb. We've spent money on Navy ships that were, again, that classic thing like we're talking about with the ferries. They were half-assed for our needs and our conditions, and they were purchased based on a price tag. The Charles Upham is the Navy ship that I'm talking about. We put the name of our most famous soldier on it, and it was a piece of garbage. I think, broadly speaking, increasing our defence spending to 2% to match our closest defence partner, Australia, is the right thing to do. Do I trust this government to spend that money effectively and to get the best bang for buck? No, I do not. This is money that should be spent on training. It should be money that's spent replacing facilities like buildings on Defence Force bases and that sort of thing. Talking about upping our combat effectiveness by buying missiles and drones, which clearly Crusher Collins knows lots about. You know, the equipment that goes bang, I think is a poor way to spend that money. The Defence Forces has a huge job to play in New Zealand and in our region, and we do have to pull our weight with our partners, especially Australia. Like if we got to the point of having to use some of our offensive capabilities, whoever's doing something bad to us has got through Australia, has got through the US Pacific Fleet. Like it's not going to matter how much stuff we have that goes bang here. I'm going to comment on Luxon's little comment of, like, you know, referring to the Chinese flotilla that came through. You know, we're seeing things that we've never seen here before. We have seen it. We've just seen it from allies. The US Navy sails around this part of the world often. Absolutely not a problem. The Chinese do it and we lose our fucking minds. Yeah, I saw a story today that said that the Defence Forces were lowering their entry standards to attract more applicants. That seems also the wrong way to go. It used to be that people would join the military to get skills and have a career and do the trades, and all of that stuff's been run out of the military. And now it just seems like we can't get good people. We can see from the global environment now that warfare has changed. You look at what's happening with the Middle East with the Houthis, you look at operations in the Ukraine and that sort of thing. It does not matter what missiles we buy. Like 9 times out of 10, we're going to burn them out on training, or they're going to sit on a shelf and age out. We need to know how to use this stuff, because if stuff goes wrong, if we do go to war, if we do get involved with peacekeeping, we need to have guys that know how to do it, that know how to teach people to do it. We need to have more training with the Australians. We need to pull our weight with them. But I think that money that they're talking about could absolutely be blown by buying one ship. You know, there's an adage when it comes to military spending, is that you're always buying stuff for the last war you fought or the last war you saw, but not for the war that's coming.
I don't know enough about it to pass any sort of when does it ever stop me, people will say. But I'm interested in some of the words I've heard. You know, our partners will be happy. What the fuck does that mean? What partners? Why will they be happy? What are they promising? Because I, like you, we'll come back to the devil's in the detail. Like I said, when we have a natural disaster, when we need help within the confines of New Zealand, the military is always the ones that are there to help them do it. Like like we're peacekeepers within New Zealand when they need to be as well. So when Luxon said, you said the same words, but when Luxon said we're going to make sure we pull our weight, what does that actually mean? Does that mean we're committing to forces internationally fighting? Is that boots on the ground around the world where our partners need us? These are all the things that I'd like to know. I think unquestionably the infrastructure of our armed services, our defence forces, is 1990s onwards. It needs to be replaced. It needs to be upgraded. I'm okay with that. To what Chloe said though as well, just remember they can find $2 billion now to do this. Where's that fucking come from?
Yeah.
Down the back down the back of the couch? Has it just been like
100% a valid criticism? Like I'm not such a war hawk that I can go.
There it is, down the back of the couch. Like, and if they came out and they said, oh, that $3 billion tax cuts, we're going to wipe that, and we're going to go back to, $8 a kid for meals, and and also do the other things, I'd be more open to it. So I'm distrustful of this government. All of a sudden, they found $2 billion like that when they couldn't do an extra $100 million on school lunches. They couldn't do what we work out to be maybe $100 million on bowel screenings. All those things couldn't be done, but boom, rub the magic lamp and $2 billion pop up for the military. I'm not against the idea of upgrading what they need, especially when it comes to machinery and infrastructure, that kind of stuff. But I am very dubious about how that money just magicked itself up with no thing. And the other thing is, before I throw it back to you, Chewy, is they said in the stand up, which we didn't get to, is no talk of increasing wages for any of the service people. So this big spend's got nothing to do with let's pay them a better wage to attract more people.
It's exactly what we've talked about with other frontline government paid staff, right? Nurses, teachers, police, military. They're all been hammering out for pay rises, and look, certainly, especially for army personnel. Starting out in the army is brutal. The on-base housing is stuff that we built in the 40s. I think famously it was excluded from the healthy home stuff. so it was just like, and that stuff turns people off, right? Paying conditions. That's how you retain people. Paying conditions. People that sign up for this job want to serve their country. They're not in it for necessarily an easy ride. And I think when they stick their hand up and go, things are out of whack here, then it is. I think objectively you can look at the state of the world, and you can look at the state of things in the Pacific as well, and go, the world's a more unstable place than it ever has been for a long time. And I think that comment that you made, Pat, of like, who are the partners that we are talking about? Look, I would put
and keeping happy. That's what you said. Keeping them happy.
I would put more weight if they were referring to our closest neighbour and the country that we've had the longest military relationship with, Australia. I would put a lot of weight in that. If the Australians are going
Fiji, Samoa, absolutely,
we feel like if something kicked off, we would have to carry you guys.
Yep.
Okay, I think that's fair enough. If it's the Americans going, you're not buying enough of our stuff, then I would go fucking jump. We're just as wary of you as we are of China at the moment.
Yeah.
It's that sort of stuff. I think the Defence Force have just such a like. When you look at the things that we want the Defence Force to do, right? Let's say disaster relief. We want them to have enough personnel and the right equipment to do that. We want to be able to deploy a C-130 or a couple of C-130s with disaster aid out to an island that's just had an earthquake or a tsunami or something. We want to be that good neighbor, right? That's something I think we can all agree on. They've got to have the equipment to do it. They've got to have the trained staff to do it. I would like to have it that, we lost soldiers on peacekeeping missions in East Timor and Afghanistan. I would like to think that we sent them with the right training and the right gear so that doesn't happen. I would like us to have the ability to, like, if it came to it, say, hey, look, we need a UN peacekeeping group to enforce a ceasefire in Gaza or a ceasefire in Ukraine, that New Zealand Defence Forces would be able to put their hand up and go, we have soldiers that are trained and ready and equipped to do this safely and effectively. And I think at this point you can flip a coin whether that's true or not. I know we really struggled to get enough personnel to go to Afghanistan. So, you know, I think some people would be surprised that I took that position. Some people maybe not so much. But I think this is one of the things that a government needs to do. It needs to do it well. And I don't think any government has really done a great job of this. And I think it's because of a lack of experience and a lack of knowledge. Sure, Judith Collins has had to do some stuff around police. What experience does she have on defence forces? The last defence minister that I can recall that had actually served and seemed to know his shit really well was Ron Mark of New Zealand First.
Yeah,
he was a very well-regarded Minister of Defence. But we haven't had that since. I haven't seen any comments from Labour. Maybe they have, maybe they haven't. I just literally haven't seen it. And I do want to acknowledge what Chloe was saying is correct. Like, yes, this needs to be done, but it's a remarkable how quick we found the money for this.
Yeah.
When we have been bitching and squabbling about critical national infrastructure, hospitals, ferries, feeding kids, all of this sort of stuff. We want to be able to do it all. But there's two things that the government has been able to just magic up money over, and that's a big fucking tax cut for landlords.
Yep.
And a whole lot of extra defence spending. But conveniently, they've stacked that on top of the funding that Labour had already lined up as well. So, yes,
yeah.
Gary here is saying that the ghost of Archibald Baxter is giving me the side eye. I'm very unhappy about that.
You might have to go do a little walk down to his garden then and repent. Is that what we're saying?
Well, since I visit that memorial every Anzac Day, yes, I will. Look, nobody here is cheerleading for war.
Don't call me in. Hey, don't speak for me. Maybe I am. Don't speak for me. You don't know.
There you go. Pat signing up for the shock troopers. There's times where the world has been really, really crazy. I think back to how many soldiers New Zealand had before World War II. I think
they had a lot fewer afterwards, didn't they? Why did they have a lot fewer afterwards? What was the?
Well, after World War One.
Yeah, it was more before than after.
We weren't going to do any wars after that. I think the New Zealand Defence Forces in 1935 had something like 1,200 soldiers, and most of them were officers. And they're just drinking and having war games in someone's paddock. And then World War II happened and everybody got mobilized. So, I mean, this is the sort of thing. You've just got to be prepared for this sort of thing. And I just want, if the government is going to spend that money, to be fucking smart about it. And I don't think there's someone in the government that has that capability to, A, listen to the people from the Defence Forces saying what they need and this is the best value for money and this is where things are going.
What would be a perfect interview is someone getting a hold of Judith Collins and asking her some quite technical questions about the Defence Force, you know, like things that a person in charge of the Defence Force should probably know. I saw the technician's message here and I wondered after I put Nala up, is it shock and awe or is it shocking? Oh, I mean, I couldn't quite read which it was.
That would be a very different way to fight an international conflict is with shock and awe. We get a stealth bomber and we carpet bomb Beijing with...
On the previous conversation,
stuff
David says,
Kiwis.
Daughter lost quite a bit on her Kiwi Saver. Arvid says, retrust ferries, that is all. And Sixth Sense Amelia, which is hard to say, sent us a super sticker. All right, Whānau, before you guys rise up against Chewy, I better protect them by us maybe moving on because they're coming for you, Chewy. I can feel it. Can you feel it?
I told you, right?
Can you feel it? They're coming for you. They're coming for you.
I just look good in green. I look good in a uniform. You'll never see it.
Oh my goodness.
Help us settle the debate. Let's take a note of the corners we stand in. As many points as the hairs on my chinny chin chin. When the news that we're watching is hairy, knowing all the things that we need to be wary of. Like the rich have the hand out for rewards, while the many have to work out what they can't afford. And the rest of us ain't paying attention, or maybe have questions we're too worried to mention. Other media is still dwelling on trivial facts, vetting peas from the rice and the mice from the rats, and picking and choosing who more puff to run, and linking ourselves with the hill to die on. It's gotta come down to a welcoming vibe, with an A in a self and a higher in mind. All have a lean either this way or that, and will be analyzed by what you impact. With the evil in the world trying to mess with your head, and you're sitting on the couch, you're thinking chivalry's dead. Each night, 2 nights, they're gonna sing you to bed. It's big hairy news.
All right, team. Remembering that aiming to have Tamatha Paul with us tomorrow night. He said on the text message that should come on, have a chat about things like what does defund the police really mean. So that's, as of today, planned for tomorrow night, 9 p.m. for you to be here or be square. I think that's what the kids are saying these days, Chewies. Either these days or in the 1950s, one of the two. I can't. It's all the same to me. All right, guys. We'll talk to you super soon. That's it for me, Chewie. Anything from you, sir?
I'm sorry, all of those.
You're war hawk?
Disappointed. I'm clearly a warmonger. Look, if I'm going to come to power, I need a strong right arm. Otherwise, how can I hold my enemies to account?
All right, team. We'll see you tomorrow from 9 p.m. live for another edition of Big Hairy News. Seals.
Cheers, fam. I can hear you, but I'll be with you in a wee second.
Is this the time we come back on after they've all left? This is our Marvel extra. Remember?
I told you that it split the room, man.
Really?
I told you that it split the room.
I actually think that there was no one watching for the last half hour.
No, fair enough.
Hey, Nala. Hey, should we go now? I think we should go now. Bye, Fano.